Ever since I was a child, my favorite superhero of all time has always been Iron Man. The genius billionaire playboy philanthropist had me hooked since the day I found out he existed. And when he got his first movie, it was a dream come true for me to see. Hell, I even had the little ceiling cut out that was a promotional for Burger King. But every now and then I go back and watch the movies and it got me thinking, what actually is Iron Man's win-loss ratio in the MCU? And that, my friends, is what we'll be finding out today. So join me as we dive into the history of the MCU and get some much needed answers. Now if you're wondering what the rules are, don't. You'll learn them as we go. So we start our journey off with Tony trying to escape the 10 rings. This is where I'll explain our first rule. This entire battle counts as one, not each individual kill. However, there are one-on-one fights that will also count as 1 point. You'll see what I mean. Anyway, Tony goes on a rampage with this one. This man is backhanding people with pure metal. He hit one guy with a Draymond Green type clothesline. They tried to lock him out, ended up locking a guy in with him. And of course that didn't work. His next Kamehameha clothesline got stuck in a wall, giving this man the perfect time to exit the film. And then this guy comes out with the, oh, I guess it's up to me, dumbass look. He gets the drop on Tony and then still gets one hit KO. Then Tony comes out and lets everybody get their best shot before he burns everything to the ground, flying out of there with no survivors. Well, almost. First W for Iron Man. Next up is a rematch with the 10 rings. Again, he does this first guy so dirty. Out of bounds! He makes light work out of the first group but gets shot by a tank, which honestly was the worst move the tank could make in this scenario. Then he blows up his own shit and gets out of there. I'd say that's another W for Iron Man. Okay, so the final fight of the movie starts with him crashing into traffic. Stain tries to hit him with a car, but Tony is not having it. He saves his family and then gets ran over as a thank you. Now I know they tried to make it seem like there were literally no casualties in this fight, but that dude is 1000% dead right there. So Obadiah is kind of beating Tony's ass right now, throwing him into a bus and then blowing it up. After everybody got out safely, of course. Then Iron Man baits him into flying so high that his suit freezes over.
How'd you solve the icing problem?
Icing problem.
Now normally an old man falling from that height in a ball of metal would pass out, but clearly Obi's no normal man. So with the help of Pepper, they overcharge only Obadiah's suit even though Tony was right there. But hey, I'm not here to critique the movies, I'm just here to tally the score. Point, Iron Man. So he's 3-0 coming out of his first movie. Next up, Iron Man 2. It starts with Whiplash doing the most insane shit I've ever seen. He's giving suitless Tony the business until Happy runs him the fuck over. He should be dead, but again, not here to judge. Tony finally says,
"Alright then, it's morphin' time!"
and gets into his suit. Again, Vanko's kind of manhandling Tony until suddenly he realizes he's immune to electricity. After that, he makes short work of Vanko and it's over.
You win.
The next challenger is Rhodey. Tony had a party and he's getting lit, and Rhodey is just tired of that shit.
Get out.
The two go back and forth throughout the whole fight, and no one really has the upper hand. Even when they do their little beam struggle, they both go down. But Rhodey is the one who gets up and flies away with the suit. So to me, that's a loss for Tony. I think Fury said it best.
The little brother walked in there, kicked your ass, and took your suit. Is that possible?
Now this fight starts at the expo, but shit really didn't start getting real until they got to the garden.
It's the kill box, Tony, okay? This is where you go to die.
These robots had Tony and Rhodey dead to rights, and they just said, I bet. Man, they went to work on these robots. I loved this scene when I first saw it, honestly. The way they treat the fight like two best friends playing video games is so dope to me.
See that? Yeah, nice.
But anyway, Iron Man uses his ult to finish off the rest of the droid army.
Here
comes a new challenger.
Good to be back.
After the failure that is Hammer Tech, Vanko does exactly what he did last time in dog walking Iron Man and War Machine. They literally cannot compete with this man in CQC. That is, until they do their special team attack. Then Vanko said, "Damn, bro, that move was so cool it made me want to kill myself." And he did it. Winner? Iron Man. Now we go from fighting guys in suits to fighting goddamn aliens. In the first alien Iron Man fights is the God of Thunder himself. The fight with Loki actually doesn't count because another one of our rules. In order for the battle to count, both parties need to engage in the fight. Loki fought Captain America, yeah, but once Iron Man arrived, Loki immediately surrendered, so there was no fight. That means the first battle was with Loki's step bro. So this fight is pretty quick. A situation that could have been easily settled with words becomes an altercation where, frankly, had it continued, eventually it would have led to another L for Tony. The only edge Iron Man had is that Thor's lightning could be absorbed by a suit, and I feel like even that would have had its limits. But the fight is stopped by the big blue Boy Scout, so it ends in the first draw on Tony's record.
Draw.
Are we done here?
So this is the first time we really get to see Iron Man take his battle to the skies, as he spends about 99% of his time flying around. There is one part where he and Cap team up for the Ultimate Alliance attack. Where Iron Man really shines is where the government decides, you know what? We don't really need New York like that, so let's just nuke that shit. And Tony, the one with common sense, says, hey, how about instead of doing that, we just shoot it at the Chitauri home base and destroy the hive mind that we totally mentioned existed earlier. And that concludes the battle and another win for Iron Man. In Iron Man 3, Tony goes on the news and tells the Mandarin, pull up, I'm dropping the location right now. And the Mandarin was like, alright, bet. And he blew up this man's entire house. Iron Man was able to take out 2 helicopters, but he couldn't finish the job as his house was destroyed and he was forced to flee. Winner? That guy that looks like he's eating sour candy throughout the whole movie. Alright, so most of the time in this fight is spent with Tony running away because he's handcuffed by Delilah.
Hey there, Delilah.
That is until he breaks them on her neck. He then proceeds to blow her ass up and she lands in the power lines.
Yeah! Damn! Oh no, bro, this motherfucker's dead.
After that, the Sour Patch Kid brings down the water tower and traps Tony. And he thinks he has the upper hand until Tony uses his hand to perform a headshot. Victory for Mr. Stark. Next, Tony goes on a hitman mission. And Agent 68 is doing his thing too. He's got Christmas bombs, a shot glove, and even a damn staple gun.
Who is the employee that sold him a staple gun?
But then he let the fake Mandarin distract them enough for Sour Patch to knock him out. For once, Tony loses the fight that he completely had the upper hand in. And that leads us to his next battle. Damn, Iron Man was in a lot of fights in this third movie. This time he only fights with part of his suit, which is pretty cool but short-lived. And he escapes relatively easy.
Honestly, I hate working here. They are so weird.
Another win for Tony Man. Another quick battle was against Sour Punch Man. I debated on adding this one because it only really lasts less than a minute. But Sour Punch Man technically fought back, although barely. So if you don't want to count it, that's fine. But I'll say Tony wins here. And finally, we got the last battle of the movie. Tony and the gang versus Killian and AIM. Yo, the rhyming is crazy today. This is actually the fight where we realize Tony can't actually shoot a gun. This man can't function without his aimbot. And speaking of aimbots,
Take him to church.
honestly, the battle is neck and neck. Like, AIM is kind of getting with these suits. And Killian is handling Tony pretty well too. He destroyed a few suits fighting Tony and even survived the self-destruction attack that I didn't even know Tony had. It's kind of terrifying when you think about it. But he walks out like Dr. Doom on Fantastic Four and says the dumbest line in the movie.
I am the Mandarin!
Pepper thought that shit was a 0 out of 10, and frankly, I agree. So Pepper absolutely murders Killian and secures the W for Team Iron Man. Next up, Age of Ultron. This movie starts off with the Avengers taking on a Hydra base. This is the Avengers, so it's a pretty easy battle. Iron Man is in the background, just ruining so many children's lives by taking their daddies away. He wrecks them, and then disables Hydra's shields to get in the base.
Drawbridge is down, people.
He shows again just how invincible he is against regular people and starts to gather all the intel. He digs even further and finds what they came for, but Wanda also finds him. It's a win for Iron Man and the Avengers, but Wanda f***ed that man's mind up, I tell you. So Ultron turns the Iron Legion against the Avengers, and one of them just flat out hit sticks Tony. But this probably is the shortest fight in that Tony only takes out one Legion bot. But Ultron took all their files, took the scepter, and used the internet as an escape hatch, so the Avengers lose, Tony loses, peace in our time. Round 2 with Ultron and them starts off with Ultron pulling one of the best quick attacks I've ever seen.
I'm glad you asked that because I wanted to take this time to explain my evil plan.
He and Iron Man mainly fight in the air as Ultron does a masterful job leading Tony away from everyone else. Then he FaceTimes Wanda and tells her to get back on her bullshit. Now, I wouldn't really talk about what everyone else is doing here, but Wanda is special because her actions tie directly into the next fight. But anyway, Iron Man catches up with Ultron, realizes he's been played and blows Ultron up. But that's back-to-back losses for Tony and the Avengers. Now about that next fight. So Cole Veronica tries to start off with trapping the Hulk. But we all know that shit wasn't gonna work. So Tony's gotta break out the legendary Hulkbuster armor. Personally, one of my favorites. And this fight does not disappoint to me. They get to throwing hands for real. Iron Man's got all these different gadgets to use, and the Hulk is just going at him with pure unrelenting strength, man. And of course, Tony isn't trying to hurt the man. That's his friend. So it makes it that much harder that he has to pull his punches and go for the knockout instead of the kill. Hulk, on the other end, does not care. That man is out for blood. Yo, the Hulk got some huge ass teeth. Did you hear the sound of it hitting the ground? So Tony makes sure to get Bruce away from the people before he proceeds to pile drive this man through a fucking building. God damn. So the Hulk realizes the terror that he's causing everyone, just before realizing the police still got their guns drawn at him. And that was just before
KO.
Now it's the Battle of Sokovia, and the Avengers added a couple of past stops and a new ally on the team. But as much as I want to talk about this fight, Iron Man is barely in it. It's only really 2 parts that he's fighting in. One where he's back in co-op mode with Rhodey.
If you live to tell it.
You think I can't hold my own?
We get through this, I'll hold your own.
You had to make it weird.
And the other is the good old hero posing fight sequence. You can barely see what's going on, but if you learn anything from this video, it's that Iron Man is absolutely mollywopping a bunch of weaker enemies.
That fuck 'em up. I'ma do my stuff.
Then he, Thor, and Vision perform a tri-beam until Ultron, the robot, submits. After that, Iron Man blows up Sokovia and the Avengers finally get a win against Ultron. So, Civil War. This is by far an Iron Man lowlight if I've ever seen one. First, he fights with Bucky, but that shit is over before it really began. Captain America manages to stop Bucky, but at this point, Steve and Tony are on the same side. So it's a win for Captain America, but a loss for Iron Man. Next up is the airport battle. Team Iron Man versus Team Captain America. Iron Man starts by getting crushed by a parking garage.
Multiple contusions detected.
Yeah, I detected that too.
Then they have the great hero size up. After that, he gets his personal space invaded by Ant-Man.
Stay out of my personal space. 4. Keep away from my personal space. 5. Get out of that personal space. 6. Stay away from my personal space. 7.
Gets shot in the face by Falcon of all people. Then ends up getting revenge on both of them, but at the cost of his best buddy. So again, a win for Captain America, and a loss for Iron Man, and a major loss for War Machine. Lastly for this movie, we have the fight that this was all building up to. The Drake versus Kendrick Lamar of MCU fights. It's Captain America, and Bucky, versus Iron Man.
Final round. Fight.
Iron Man is legit out for blood here, but only towards Bucky, for obvious reasons. He really didn't want to fight Cap, but he knew he wasn't just gonna stand there and let Bucky get killed. Even still, he did his absolute best to keep Cap out of the way as much as possible. And even Bucky isn't trying to kill Tony, but is instead trying to disable his tech. Unfortunately for Tony, Steve is pretty unrelenting himself. In fact,
I could do this all day.
but they get to a point where they're gonna have to start throwing the good hands. And Tony is really getting with Cap. I think one-on-one, Iron Man would probably body Captain America. But this isn't a one-on-one. And they did my guy dirty here.
Fuck. Oh! He needs some milk!
But he gets back to a one-on-one, and again, they don't want to see Tony. He takes Bucky's arm and then after analyzing Cap's attack patterns, gives him the business. He's legit beating Captain America's ass right now. This fight was all but wrapped up until Bucky's bitch ass distracted Tony for a couple seconds, which was all Steve needed to turn the battle and power down Iron Man's suit.
Nigga, boom!
Cap wins again, of course, because you can't have Captain America losing his own movie, right? That's 3 straight losses for Tony Stark, all to Steve and his best friend. Meanwhile, Tony's best friend went from Colonel Rhodes to Lieutenant Dan. Fuck Captain America.
Are you Tony's stank?
We only have a few more battles left to go over now, so let's dive into Infinity War, where the first battle involving Iron Man is with Ebony Grandma and Cole Buckhold. In this fight, he's mainly against Cole, and for a change, he gets to be the one to jump somebody as Spider-Man comes to help out a bit.
Hey, man. What's up, Mr. Stark?
Kid, where'd you come from?
That's until Peter and Doctor Strange get beamed up into the flying donut, and Tony has to get saved by Wong.
Whoa! Ugh.
Wong, you're invited to my wedding.
Unfortunately though, the objective was to not let them get the stone, and they got the stone. So that's another one in the loss column, I'm afraid. Now Tony gets a chance to almost immediately redeem himself, but Ebony Maw technically never attacked, so the battle doesn't count to me. However, if you want to count it, that's fine. But my question to you would be, does it count as a conclusion to the first battle or as its own separate battle? It's too confusing for me, so I'm not gonna count it. Now I would immediately go against what I just said if I didn't consider the fight against the Guardians. It's a very quick battle and it ends in a draw, but I had to mention it nonetheless, so let's move on.
Wait, who are you?
We're the Avengers, man.
His last fight doesn't come until near the end, where he and his team has to take on the big bad, Thanos. Tony starts off by dropping the remains of their ship directly onto Thanos' head, doing what I would predict to be absolute 0 damage. Thanos is a completely different beast, man, because he turns all of that debris into a legion of bats and just whisks Tony away like it was nothing. He comes back with a bombardment of explosives, and again, it does 0 damage and is turned against him. My guy's too old for this shit, man. He comes back again to help the team get the gauntlet off of Thanos. It almost works until a certain someone decides to hit his own teammate out of a blind rage. I fucking hate you, Star-Lord. I really do. I will never not hate you for this. So Tony tries to 1v1 Thanos, and the man decides to, let me make sure I'm reading this right. Okay. Throw a goddamn moon at Iron Man. Like, imagine if you beefing with someone and all of a sudden they say, you know what, Madara was my favorite ninja, and pulls the moon out of orbit just to end you. Do you know how upset I'd be, if not dead? But again, Tony comes back for another round and gets a good couple of hits on him this time. But that only does about 3% damage, and he's still well over 90, so the rest of the fight goes exactly how you expect it to go.
All that for a drop of blood.
This man has almost died so many times, I swear. But again, that's another loss for Iron Man, and Peter doesn't feel so good.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know.
It indeed has not been going good for my mans lately. Bro hasn't gotten a W since Age of Ultron, but that's all about to change with this final battle. This is it, y'all.
We're in the endgame now.
It starts off with the big three sizing up Thanos like a damn coin toss at the beginning of a football game. Iron Man comes in with what is truly my absolute favorite suit in the MCU. He's got that mix of that classic look with a modern twist to it. It's just breathtaking to me, a true work of art. So anyway, in the middle of the fight, Iron Man decides to take a quick nap. He's over 50 years old at this point, so I mean, I get it.
Boss, wake up!
And it looks like the team is about to be dealt yet another L, but then
on your left.
Everyone that was snapped out of existence arrives, and for the first time, the Avengers are truly at full strength. Iron Man is back from his nap, and it's time for the true final battle to begin.
Avengers! Assemble.
Man, I really wish I could fully describe this fight because it's so good, but this is Iron Man's video, so the focus is on him. We see him and Rescue get a nice little synergy move going. Then we see him, Spider-Man, and Ant-Man take down Cull Obsidian, and he and Spider-Man have a nice little heart-to-heart without their helmets in the middle of a war.
Doing the yellow sparkly thing that he does all the time? What are you doing? Oh, this is nice.
The next time we see Iron Man is right after Thanos blows up their time machine. Iron Man tries to stop Thanos from getting the glove, but again, it's Thanos. Thor and Cap shoot their shot and brick entirely. Hell, even Captain Marvel herself can't stop him, and she's the strongest of them all canonically. So Iron Man, realizing what's at stake, understanding that this is his one chance at victory and now knowing what he needs to do to achieve it, makes his final play at Thanos. As Thanos gets all 6 stones back in the gauntlet, Iron Man tries to grab it, making it seem like he's just trying to rip it off. Thanos knocks him off and does one more taunt before ending it.
I am inevitable.
But nothing happens. And that's when he realizes what Tony did. Instead of ripping the glove off, he transferred the stones into his own suit, finally gaining the power to end it all. He stands there, preparing for victory, and then in his final words, he says it.
And I am Iron Man.
And then, all of his enemies, like his allies 5 years prior, start to deteriorate and blow away like dust in the wind. He did it. But the price of victory was indeed a steep one, as the full power of the Infinity Stones proved too much for his body to handle. He can't speak, he can barely move, and he and his family knows that his story is coming to an end. They say their goodbyes and let him know that it's okay. He can finally rest. And with that, the sun sets on our hero. So now that we've reached the end, it's time to tally our results. In the many, many battles that Iron Man has been in, he's won 14, lost 10, and had 2 draws. That's a win percentage of 57.69, but we're rounded up to about 58. Honestly, Tony had a lot more losses than I thought before doing this. Now I want to see how he stacks up against the rest of his fellow heroes, and maybe even a couple villains. But if you like the video and want to see me analyze more characters' win percentages, then don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, especially subscribe. I'm trying to get my count up and I can't do it without you, so please, subscribe. But that's it for today's video. Rest in peace, Tony Stark, and I'll catch y'all next time.